Now, Liz Truss, Prime Minister for 45 days, but what a 45 days it was. She went full throttle, didn't she? Full foot on the floor, let's go for this. It's all about growth. And let's look at fracking again. And we thought in Lancashire we had seen the back of it. But we entered the fracking zone again. And are we about to leave it again? Because the ban on fracking for shale gas in England has been restored by the new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. We know more than most about fracking here in Lancashire, of course. We're the only place in the UK to have fracked on Preston New Road. And in 2019, the process was halted amid opposition from environmentalists and local concerns, of course, over earth tremors. People's houses shook. Now, we thought it had gone away until the former Prime Minister, Liz Truss, said fracking could take place wherever there was local consent. Now, that provoked a backlash from opposition parties and some Conservative MPs. Now, I interviewed Liz Truss, you might have heard about it, just a few weeks ago, and she struggled to explain what local consent would look like. What does local consent look like, Prime Minister?
Well, the Energy Secretary will be laying out in more detail exactly what that looks like, but it does mean making sure there is local support for going ahead. And I can assure
it sounds like you don't know.
And I can assure Mark Menzies, well, there are various detailed issues to be worked through, but I can assure Mark Menzies that I will make sure there is local consent if we are to go ahead in any particular area with fracking.
But your local MPs don't want it, all Conservative. In the past, the County Council have said they didn't want it, yet your government overturned it. The science hasn't changed. Why can't you tell us this morning there won't be a return to fracking in Lancashire?
Well, I don't accept the premise of your question.
Why?
It's certainly the case at present, because what I've said is if there is local consent, we will go ahead. We need to explore where there is local consent and where there isn't, and we're still doing that work.
Well, they're not anymore, because in his first Prime Minister's questions, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, was asked about fracking by the Green Party's Caroline Lucas.
So if he is a man of his word, will he start by reversing the green light she gave to fracking, since it's categorically not been shown to be safe, and instead maintain the moratorium that was pledged in that very manifesto that he has promised to uphold?
Well, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, responded saying he would be sticking by their 2019 manifesto.
I've already said I stand by the manifesto on that. But what I would say is that I'm proud that this government has passed the landmark Environment Act, putting more protection for the natural environment than we've ever had, with a clear plan to deliver. And I can give the Honourable Lady my commitment that we will deliver.
Well, the latest move has been welcomed by the filed MP Mark Menzies, whose constituency, the Preston New Road site, is based.
The government, under Rishi Sunak, has moved with such speed, no hesitation, no having to twist arms, crystal clear that this policy would be reintroduced, that fracking has no place in the United Kingdom, and that the events in the Fylde Coast in 2012 and 2019 suggested that the science really pointed to fracking having no place as part of our future energy policy. So I am delighted that Rishi Sunak has been crystal clear on this. So it's a good day.
Let's speak to Barbara Richardson, a member of Frack Free Lancashire, which has been campaigning against fracking for a number of years. Barbara, good morning.
Good morning, Graham.
So, is that it now?
I think it could be. I think it is only a moratorium still, and with this government, you never know. But yes, I think Mark Menzies summed it up very nicely.
And when you heard, I don't know if you listen to Prime Minister's questions, but when you heard Rishi Sunak say that yesterday, did you think, has he just banned fracking?
Yeah, so it was a bit confusing because I was actually at Dunham Massey in the deer park, in the middle of a deer park.
Oh,
when
how
I
lovely.
got a message.
How lovely.
It was beautiful.
Oh, good. That's
absolutely
nice.
stunning.
That's nice.
Yes, it was. But I say we were a bit concerned at first whether we actually could believe what was being said. But we think it's amazing that they have gone back to the manifesto promise, which is what we wanted. Because at the end of the day, we know, everybody knows that, fracking is not socially, it's not politically, it's not environmentally, it's not economically viable. So I think they've made the right move here.
But what do you say to those people who say we've not really done it properly? We've overreacted to some earth tremors. Let's give it a proper go. We've not given it a proper go here in Lancashire, and we're sitting on all this Boland shale.
Because we know it's a totally wrong direction. We know it can't be extracted safely. It can't be, the geology and the science hasn't changed. So even if they were to go ahead, we also know from what the experts have said that there isn't enough gas down there to make a significant impact on our security of energy supply. We know it's not going to affect the energy, the price of energy and people's bills. It's not going to lower them. So why would you start, to roll out a whole new fossil fuel industry? It's just the wrong place, it's the wrong time, and it's totally the wrong direction to be starting fracking in the UK. And let's face it, it's only England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, other countries have banned this practice. So I think we need to be setting a good example. With COP27 coming up, and don't know if you heard yesterday, the United Nations General Secretary issued a dire warning about climate change and said, nations need to be doing something. That at the end of the day, the people will make the governments accountable. And I think people have realised that, we're in a serious situation here. Climate crisis isn't something made up, and it's not a scaremongery thing. It's real, and we've got to do something about it. And I'm hoping that Rishi Sunak and his government have realised. I think Liz Truss has done us a favour, basically.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I think she did a favour by actually, taking the moratorium away. I think she's made people stand up and speak out because opposition is so strong at the moment. And I'm talking about cross-party opposition in Parliament. And I think it just made the government sit up and realise just how serious an issue this is.
Because some people have said that the former Prime Minister, Liz Truss, she was all about doing stuff quickly.
Yeah.
And it was all, foot to the floor. It's all about growth. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. And she said, yep, fracking, let's look at fracking with local consent. And in my interview with her, so some people may say she didn't know what that meant.
No, and I think it was ill thought out. I don't think she did. I mean, you can't have growth without looking at what the costs and the impacts of that growth would be. I mean, I'm all for growth. Everybody, wants the economy to grow, but we want it to grow in a healthy way and in a sustainable way. You can't just say, I'm going to grow without looking at what the impacts of that would be. So I think it was rather ill thought out, to be honest with you.
So that's it for now. Do you think you can, enjoy nice days out, looking at deers?
The deers in the deer park. Well, I would like to get my life back to normal, and we will be keeping a very close eye on things. But we've just got to wait and see the detail. And I'm assuming there's going to be a new written ministerial statement, or they're going to revoke the one that Rees-Mogg has brought in. So I think it's hopeful. I think it's hopeful for communities, but we'll be continuously on our guard, I think.
Barbara, who knows? Maybe talking to you soon.
To be honest, Graham, I would rather not.
Oh, well, thanks.
But you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Can I just congratulate you and David on the wedding? Because I haven't had a chance to do that, but congratulations. Thank
you very much, Barbara. Barbara, thank you. Barbara Richardson from Frack Free Lancashire joining us this morning. We'll speak to a geologist after 8 o'clock. Let's speak to Professor Richard Davis, who's an expert in fracking from Newcastle University. Richard, good morning.
Good morning.
Is that it then, do you think, for the UK?
Yes, I think it is for a good period of time. That, at least, it's very difficult to predict politics. We didn't know there was going to be a war in Ukraine, and those are the sorts of things that helped reverse that decision and bring fracking back. But as I've said before, and as actually those clips have said, the British Geological Survey did a detailed report on earthquake risk, and we've really not learned anything new that allowed fracking to be brought back. So Liz Truss's decision really wasn't based on any science that I could point to. So it's probably the right decision in that the seismic experts cannot predict whether fracking will or won't cause earthquakes, and we can't see the faults that are causing those earthquakes. So it seems like the right move.
When we talk about the Boland Shale that I think I'm probably sitting on right now, and most people in Lancashire are sitting on right now, how much of there is it? And I'm reading stuff and doing some research in it. I'm told that the type of gas that we have here is kind of too bubbly. Can you kind of go into that this morning?
No, too bubbly. What do you mean by too bubbly?
Well, it will. The type we've got will cause earth tremors, unlike the type of stuff that they have in the United States.
Oh, okay, right. So in the United States, they also have earth tremors.
Yeah.
It's a common phenomena. What's actually happening is that when you pump the fluid into the ground, the fluid is getting into faults, and it's effectively pushing these bits of rock apart and allowing them to slip. So earthquakes occur in the United States, but the UK has been plagued by earthquakes since 2011 when Priest Hall was fracked. So this is a common phenomena. It happens in China, it happens in the USA, and it happens in the United Kingdom. So there's no difference. What's happened in the UK is that the extremely close monitoring of the Preston New Road wells by academia, even with the closest monitoring and science, it's still not been being able to predict when these earthquakes will happen and where they're going to happen. So that's what we've learned. I guess the UK has pioneered the monitoring of earthquake risk, and the results are we can't really predict when these faults are going to slip. So there's no difference really. UK faults move and there's earthquakes, but that happens in China. It happens in the US as well.
So in the United States, they just put up with it.
In the United States, you've got to remember that go to places like Texas. They're far bigger than Lancashire. But no, there has been real concern in the United States. The other thing that goes on in the United States that's caused concern is they inject all the wastewater underground, and that helps cause earthquakes. We're not allowed to do that in the UK, so that hasn't been something that people have worried about. But no, it has caused concern in the United States and in Canada. So it's a common phenomena that we're seeing that Preston New Road has highlighted.
So you don't think we'll be talking about fracking again, me and you, on the radio?
Well, that's I think I spoke to you when I said just before the Ukraine war it won't come back, and then Putin invaded Ukraine, and then Liz Truss came into power, and I almost ate my words. What I've said before, and I stand by, even if you had fracking, it would contribute a very small amount of gas into the United Kingdom, because you would need hundreds of wells to be drilled every year to make a dent on our reliance on imports. We burn about 2.8 trillion cubic feet of gas every year in the United Kingdom, and you would need hundreds of fracked wells. And it just doesn't seem plausible, given over the last 10 years, about 10 wells have been drilled and a couple have been fracked. How we would drill hundreds every year is beyond me.
Professor Richard Davis, thank you for joining us this morning. An expert on fracking from Newcastle University. Who knows, maybe down the line we will speak to him again, but I don't think for a very long time. Anyway, lovely to speak to you and have your expertise on the show.